Before we get into today's episode, we want to let you know that we're going to be dealing with a pretty difficult topic today. We will be talking about purity culture and the sexual trauma that arises from religious abuse.
So if that's something you don't want to dive into at the moment, we'll see you soon on another episode.
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
And religious trauma. I'm Emily Hatch.
And I'm Carrie Schaefer, and this is Honestly, Dear Listener.
Honestly, dear listener.
Woo!
You know how I just said we're two childhood best friends? What did we even say?
We're two childhood best friends talking about creative mindset.
You sound just like the lady.
You know, that's so funny. I know her.
You know, we're two childhood best friends.
Mm-hmm.
Right before we started recording, Carrie just called me a dumb bitch.
And it was
But
so
let me tell
funny.
Let me tell you why. Because I put on a lipstick color she hadn't seen before, and she was complimenting how good these colors look on me. You dumb bitch.
Yeah. Especially when you yourself, meaning me, cannot wear that color, which is probably another one of those patriarchal rule things that no one should care about. But I do. And so because I felt like I wish I could wear that color pink on my lumps, meaning my lips, then she got called a dumb bitch. I really am a good friend, though. I promise.
It's true. You are a good friend. Like for the 3 hours before that, you listened to me
Yes.
talk about
Ah.
every aspect of my current existential crisis. So like, and then I'll take one dumb bitch. Like that's fine. I'll take
Good.
one. Mm-hmm.
Welcome, everyone.
Hi, guys. We're in the same city. We're in the same house right now.
We are. She's downstairs. I'm upstairs because it's
Yeah.
really hard to record a podcast in the same room because it just messes the mics up. Even though every other podcast out there, they're sitting in the same room. For us, it's hard. Thank you.
That's all I have to say about that.
That's it. Emily, what do you have for me today? What do you want to slap on the table?
I contribute nothing
Oh,
in this relationship. Okay. I was just kidding. Actually, so I have so much to say. Last night we went to see Qveen Herby.
Oh my gosh.
If you don't know who she is, you need to look her up on Instagram, or you could on like streaming platforms. But I love her Instagram. It's Qveen
Qveen Herby.
Yes.
She also has a really bomb podcast about art and creativity.
She gave us a show last night. Like, had an LED background set, had some set pieces with like stage hands that moved them, costume changes, hair change, like, and her music is just everything I need to hear.
So, okay, I'm glad that you brought up her music because the other day you and I were talking with a friend about how every single song out there is about romantic love. Oh baby, I want to grind and squirish on you and all the stuff.
Like, I haven't heard that one, but yeah, squirish. I haven't heard that one.
I don't know, but there's a lot of like, let me grind on your surfboard type of things, which is great.
Hashtag
grind,
Beyonce.
Yeah, like grind on that surfboard. I want you to, but there happens.
Like, you used to grind on my surfboard and now you don't, and I don't know what to do.
Right.
Still about surfboards.
It's still about surfboards. Okay.
Or love, people might say.
So
you say love, I say surfboard.
If you don't know what we're talking about, it's a Beyonce reference. It's fine. So here's my deal. Like, cool. Let's go with surfboard love. Neat. But like, there's so many different things to sing about in this world other than romantic / horny love. There just is. And where are all those songs out in the world?
Right.
And here's the deal. Like right as we were saying, like 2 days or 4 days before when we were talking about this, then Emily and I go to the Qveen Herby concert. And what is she singing about, Emily?
Oh, all the things that I said no one sings about.
Right.
Self-love, taking care of yourself. One song in particular that I adore is basically like, you say mean things to me, and I think it's sad that you are in a place in your life where you do that to other people. Might I suggest touching grass and then relaxing and coming back when you love yourself?
Yeah.
She sings about that real shit. And once in a while she's like, by the way, my husband's real cool. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, she does have a sugar daddy song. Cool. Awesome. Let's go. But like she's talking about doing the work. She's talking about taking breaks when you need it. She's talking about like tuning into your body and yourself and your inner wisdom in a way that I just don't hear that reflected out in a lot of music out there or even a lot of art in general. And I think it's normalizing that like, okay, I'm not some like weirdo for wanting to work on myself. Like there's also other artists that are doing the work out there and are making art about that process.
Lizzo is another person that sings about that stuff a lot. Not as much. I mean, she sings about love too, but
what's that one song? The one song that you and I both like a lot.
Soulmate.
I am a soulmate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's that stuff. We need that. We need that energy in the world. Like, let's celebrate more than one type of love.
Doesn't she have a song called Big Dick Energy?
Ooh, I thought
I think
don't
she
know.
did it last night.
Oh, yeah. Qveen Herby. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Qveen Herby. Yes. Yeah. Which I love. By the way, she talked about her pussy a lot.
She did.
But not sexually, really.
Yeah.
Just like in her song, she talks about like there's one that she's talking about like big, like having a big pussy, but it's
the lyric is big pussy energy. I keep it in my dress. And I love the song. I'm so uncomfortable with the word pussy. I can barely say it. I can't believe I just said it twice on this podcast.
You guys, we are growing and changing every day.
We really are. Like, but it's interesting because when she's saying it, you're right. That is a really good observation that you made, that she's not talking about her pussy in terms of a sexual act, although there's nothing bad or wrong with that. But it's just,
that's just normally like, how we hear it.
It is normally how we hear it.
Or it's like our future president talking about assault. Anyway, go ahead.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yep. All of that. Yep. And it's cool to be like, I can talk about this body part of mine, like this energy that originates with this body part. And I can talk about her like she's big and she's strong and she is valid just on her own.
Yeah, and that it symbolizes strength.
Yeah.
And what was it toward the end of the night? She was like, I needed this. And then she was like, didn't she say like my pussy needed this?
Yes, my pussy needed this.
And I was like,
huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Like
because I think she's talking about more than just tissue.
Yeah.
And she's talking about concepts of like of womendom, of feminism.
It's almost like she's talking about that like it's her core.
Yep.
And that's cool.
Yes.
And we didn't grow up like that.
No, we sure didn't.
At all.
No.
Like you don't barely even have words for that part of your body.
No.
It's gross. It's weird. It's shameful.
Which leads us into the promised topic. If you were listening last week, we said that we would talk about purity culture. Yay!
Oh, boy.
Which is something that goes hand in hand with fundamentalist, evangelical, especially Pentecostal faith tradition Christianity that Emily and I grew up in. If you are a longtime listener of the podcast, you know that Emily and I were very, very conservatively cloistered, bubble sheltered. And that's all we knew was fundamentalist Christianity. And so a massive part of that faith tradition, especially if you are of the female persuasion, is purity culture and being absolutely obsessed with women's bodies and with sex, but not in like a, ooh, I want to have sex, even though that's natural and that's what your body wants to do. It's about abstaining from sex at all costs.
And not even thinking about it.
No, you shouldn't want it.
Don't think about it.
Like there was even that.
Until you're married, and then you need to turn it on.
Like a faucet.
And only for that person.
Only. And it's kind of a big mind fuck when you literally tell your body for years, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down, shut it down. You can't. Oh, you get married. You walk down an aisle and you sign a piece of paper and you say, I do. And then all of a sudden, now you can, but not just you can. You should and you have to.
You must.
You must. And how do you transition from, oh, I can't to you must. And you must transition in the space of less than a day. Okay?
Ready? Go.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say that my therapist and I am in therapy for this very reason.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but might as well just
Back
go there.
in the game, bitch.
Yep, that's right. I am all up in my therapy talking about religious trauma and purity culture. And there is this thing that happens to women's bodies when there is it's a psychological belief or component, something that you think that then translates and makes other parts of your body not function as well. In the vagina's case, it's called vaginismus, and it's when sex is super painful because your brain is telling your body no, 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 and so it just like muscle contracts that part of your body, which equals pain. And my therapist was like, do you know how common this is for women who have been raised in a high control religion? And I was like, she was like, you would be floored. There's such a strong correlation. Which made me really sad. Like sad and angry, and then sad again, and then angry, and then sad some more, and then just a whole pot of mixed up sadness and anger.
Yeah. Ugh. I feel that the intention behind all of this, from the like good church perspective in air quotes, is to like spare people the pain of attaching and detaching from people, and to have good control over your mind and your body. But that is really, it feels very far-fetched to even say that. The more I think about it, the more disgusted I am. Where is that really? What's the motivation for this? Keeping the women pure so that the men feel powerful and have virgins. I mean, they're talking about this with guys too, but it's way less of an issue with men. I feel like it's still there, but it's so much more. The women are the gross ones. So the motivation there is uh patriarchal, like keep your women from being stinky whores. Also, the like you have a purpose, and it is only to have sex to be with your husband, to be good to your husband, and to produce children for your husband, so that we can like further the bloodline of whatever the fuck that we're doing here.
It's about control.
Yeah.
It's about keeping women small,
shameful,
and ashamed.
Yep.
I think we should go back, because I think for some of our the listeners that know and grew up the way we did, they're going to get it right off the bat. But I think we need to paint the picture of what it was like growing up and some examples. And so of what it was like to grow up in purity culture. We can go over purity rings and things that we wore and things that we didn't wear. So I remember being taught from an early age. Like I was maybe in 4th grade and I was starting to develop. And I would wear these like little cotton, like you'd wear them under your Easter dress, like little slips, and they'd go up and they kind of were like a little camisole with like a poofy petticoat that's attached to it. It was like a whole dress. And I would wear those in my house and in my backyard. And I remember I was in 4th grade, like I said. Apparently I was developing because my mom was like, ran outside and was like, you can't wear that around your father.
Ew.
And I was like, why? She was like, because your breasts are developing and it's inappropriate.
That's really gross.
It's really gross. Now, here, I should preface that with my father has never been anything but appropriate with me. There's never, to my remembrance, like there's never been anything but that, and that speaks to my mom's trauma for sure. But like that set up in my brain, oh, your body, like your tiny little body is dangerous. And it's especially dangerous around men. And no man, you're not safe from any man, not even your own goddamn father.
It's insane.
And it just like, that's the first time that I remember being like, oh, that's a woman's body. Okay. What about you?
Oh, I don't know why my experience feels. I mean, maybe it's just that I have like unprocessed trauma with a lot of this stuff. Some of it's just kind of like beep. I got married to the only person I had ever slept with because my mom knew I had had sex with him, and he was my boyfriend. He was my first boyfriend ever, and we would break up and get back together. But she was like, if you guys are having sex, you need to get married. Oh. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, well, I want to be with him. I love him. I don't want to stop having sex with him. So like, we'll get married so that I don't have to feel guilty. Because we would have sex like once a month, and I would just cry and cry after and be like, are we going to hell? And like, it was horrible. And I remember my mom being like, Emily, this is what it is. Like, if you want to have sex, you have to get married. And I remember my dad the day before the wedding was like, you don't have to do this, do you? Like, you do know that, right? And I was like, well, no, not really. Like, mom says I have to. And he's like, well, technically the Bible says that, but you do not need to like get married right now. And I'm like, this is the day before the wedding. Don't you think it's a little late, Dad? And that it was this like, I have to fucking do this. And he brings that up and has apologized for it because he's like, you're right. Like, what choice did we give you?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I know that's not the same example of like when I first realized, but that was a huge traumatic thing for me, was that I couldn't just have sex with my boyfriend. I didn't know anything about, I mean, I knew that like sperm was cum and that made a baby and all that stuff, but I didn't really know. My mom kind of talked about cycle stuff. I didn't know anything. I got pregnant on my honeymoon because I was like, we don't have to be careful anymore. And I think I just had my period, and I don't think you can get pregnant when you're on your period. And I just had it. I was ovulating. I had no idea.
Yep. And for any of young listeners out there, if we have any young listeners, you can get pregnant at any time, is my understanding anyway.
That's what I've heard.
Yep. At any time in your cycle.
Yep. Yeah, I remember I had a friend in high school. I was friends with her for like 15 years, and her dad was a really like also weird pastor, but they did like home church stuff. She didn't even know that cum was sperm.
Wow.
And she got pregnant at 17
Oh.
and had an abortion, and then had a different boyfriend and got pregnant at 18 and got married. And she was pregnant with her second baby before she knew what got her pregnant actually.
Oh, man.
Like, she
Oh,
knew
boy.
sex did it, but she didn't know.
Yeah. And if you're wondering, because I know there are a lot of people that maybe went to public school, like you get those talks, you get that education in public school. When you go to private Christian school like Emily and I did, you never got any of that.
And in my case, 5th grade, the elementary school did one, little one that was just talked about babies and like how it all worked. My mom would let me go to the talk. I had to sit outside the classroom in the hallway and wait because she didn't want the school telling me how it worked.
Did she tell you how it worked?
I
So
mean, she
she didn't
talked a
tell
lot
you?
about the feelings and emotions behind sex. But I was like, I don't know what actually happens.
Right. Which is so confusing.
I remember asking my friend in like freshman year of high school about some stuff because I wasn't sure what actually went on.
My sophomore year of high school, I asked a guy friend of mine. We were talking about how many orifices women have, and I was like, well, like our two. He was like, you do know that you have 3 holes down there, right? And I was like, what do you mean?
Do you know when I learned that? After I had a baby.
Oh my God.
Because I looked down while I was peeing and I saw the pee coming out of a different hole than my vagina.
Uh-huh.
And thought something was wrong with me.
Oh.
And asked my nurse sister-in-law because I tore really badly, so I thought I might have like popped another leak somewhere, and she's like, no, that's your urethra, you have 3 holes. I found that out when I was 20 years old, after I had a child.
Wow. Yeah. Like there's no excuse for that. Like,
We're not talking about sex
yeah,
in the
we're
church,
talking about, yeah,
but we talk about it all the time
all the time in
in
church.
terms of not having it.
Right.
But then you
Yes.
have no knowledge whatsoever about your body, about how things work. Like, you're just now you're allowed to and you have to. Like, there's no not, but we talk about it all the time. It's like they're obsessed with
They are
teenage
obsessed.
girls.
Yes, they are.
And teenage girls are like, the messaging is, and we should talk about a couple of the things they did to tell us. The messaging is, if you have sex with more than one person, you're worthless. Almost literally.
Yep.
Like, so was it our friend Natasha talked about the peanut butter and jelly sandwich? That is the worst. That's like the most heinous one I've ever heard.
Tell me about it.
So basically, the pastor did this, made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and like held it up and was like, doesn't this look yummy and delicious and amazing? Like, don't you just want to take a big bite of it? And then he's like, passed it around to the group of people and was like, why don't you feel it? Feel how good it feels and like smell it and see how good that is. And then the next person does it and the next person does it. And then he picks it back up and it's all like handled and gross and nasty. And he's like, who would want this? And no one does. And he's like, this is why you don't have sex before you're married.
Because now you're worthless.
You are disgusting.
Yeah.
Everyone's had you. Nobody wants you.
Yikes.
Mine was just the talk of, like at a Bible camp once, the talk about a piece of gum.
Mm-hmm. Mine was
Didn't
tape.
you have a... Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, so I went to this thing. It was called FACT Foundation. I think it's now defunct. I don't know. It was where we lived. It was foundational advice concerning teens, and it pushed nothing but abstinence, right? There's no other option. And so the person broke off a piece of like Scotch tape and passed it around the room. And then by the end, it wasn't really that sticky anymore. She was like, this is you after you have sex with other people. Like you've lost your sticky. And
Because everybody wants a sticky puss.
Right.
Sorry,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And now you don't have any worth and you have no purpose. Like, what's the point of unsticky tape? It has no more function.
What's
anymore.
Your purpose if you have sex with someone else? You might as well kill yourself.
Yeah. I think this is okay, so that brings us to our next fun thing in the life of a fundy evangelical girl is when you get your promise ring, aka your purity ring. And it was, for me, I was 13. 13, yeah, because that's technically early. When I'm a teenager. Yeah. And I wasn't even interested in like I was barely even talking to boys. I was interested, let's be honest, but like I couldn't even barely talk to a boy that I liked. And my mom took me to this purity conference in Denver where she presented me with this purity ring, and I had to sign some contract with her that was
and Jesus, right?
And Jesus, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry. I forgot.
Jesus wasn't physically there to sign the contract, but he was there.
Yeah.
Holy Spirit.
Absolutely.
Okay, sorry.
So the whole thing was about, I promised that I will not have sex outside of the confines of holy matrimony. And I signed it. Of course, I was gung-ho. I was like, yeah, of course. Yes. Everyone, because all my friends had these cute purity rings that their dad was giving them. By the way, it was my mom.
Yeah, I noticed.
That gave it to me because my dad cannot hang with any conversations about anything that has to do with reproduction. I one time got in trouble growing up because I said the word pregnant in front of my brother, who's 4 years younger than me. Yeah, like it's bizarre, right? So he can't hang. So my mom did the honors, and I wore that thing up until the day I got married, and then I kept wearing it with my wedding ring even after I was married.
Oh,
anxiety.
Yeah.
So, but the weird thing is like my brother is 4 years younger than I am. Did he get a purity ring, Emily?
Of course he didn't.
No, I guarantee my parents never had that conversation with him. I would be really surprised if they had that conversation with him. And I asked my mom the other day, I was like, why didn't Chicky, that's what I call my brother, why didn't Chicky get a purity ring? She was like, you could tell the look on her face told me that she had never even thought about it.
Why? Yeah, why would you?
Because male purity is not as important as female purity. Female purity is paramount.
They focus with boys on not looking at porn.
Yes, they do. But it was very much...
you need to like your very uptight, anxiety-ridden wife. Don't look at sex-positive women or you're never going to want to fuck the lady who's really fucked up from us telling her not to fuck you.
It was very much like the way I was taught about boys was that they're visual, they can't help themselves. So if they get turned on, that that's on you. What were you doing to cause them to have an erection? To which I say, absolutely nothing. If you're a middle school boy, now I know this. If you're a middle school boy, erections just happen. I could be an actual trash bag. And it
Like,
wouldn't matter.
that looks weird. Or I just had a nap.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I
Yeah.
have a boner now. Okay.
Right. But it's our fault. And so that and then all the guilt of that is heaped on women. What were you doing? Were you trying to be a Jezebel, which is a queen from the Old Testament that all Christians are obsessed with talking about? Like, she's the biggest whore ever.
She was super powerful.
She sounds
and
awesome to me.
Yeah, honestly, she was really powerful and turned a whole country against the king, I think, and then fed him to the dogs, literally.
Yeah, Ahab.
Yeah, I kind of feel like I want to be a Jezebel.
I mean, but if any woman in any church stands up and is any kind of strong and it has conviction,
she has a Jezebel spirit.
She has a Jezebel spirit.
Jezebel is such a pretty name.
It is. Jezebel.
Sorry.
Yeah, so that was don't even also if you start fooling around, kissing and stuff, that will inevitably lead to heavy petting, which I am loath to say those two words together.
Petting.
Yeah. It will lead to heavy petting, and then you will not be able to stop yourself from having sex.
Especially if the guy gets turned on. He'll just uncontrollably rape you, which is your fault.
Your fault.
I know I'm being a little silly. Maybe it's just the blocks in my brain, but I think about heavy petting, and that's just such a hilarious phrase to me. I almost picture someone who has like pelts over their tits, and a guy just like,
but he's doing it heavy.
Yeah, like
it's like very firm,
pressing hard and slowly all the way down the tit pelts. Like, I don't know why.
Heavy pet on my tit pelts.
I felt up your tit pelt.
Oh,
anyway,
boy.
Yeah. This is real.
Yeah, we're laughing about it, but
I think I get like this because it really, the reality of it is nauseating.
Yeah.
When I look back, I feel like I just didn't take it as seriously as I maybe should have until the like marriage thing. But I had to, I had to have been taking it seriously or I wouldn't have gotten married. But I was also fine with marrying my husband at the time because 19 and my brain's mushy. But like, I got my purity ring on my 16th birthday, which was a big party with a bunch of people there. And my dad like gave it to me. And it was like, this is your promise ring, like to stay pure till marriage. It was less like, I don't think I signed a contract or anything. It was like, here's what this symbolizes. And I had sex within a year. So
yeah, girl.
Only just the tip and only for a second. And then I didn't fully do it until 2 months after that. I don't know. I don't know if it's because my dad lived a life before he became like a born again Christian and pastor. And his platform, though like very legalistic and weird, was pretty love based overall. So like, I don't know if he just was like, yeah, this is right because this is what all these assholes are saying, and this feels like I should do this. He's always just been so accepting of whatever ends up happening with me.
Wow.
So it's like I was very lucky in that way. It's like my dad wasn't like, what about the purity ring? Like I didn't really discuss it with him. My mom, I walked in the day after I lost my virginity, and she was like, "Did you have sex last night?" And I was like,
shoot.
"What?" She's like, "You lost your virginity last night, didn't you?"
Whoa.
And I was like, "Yeah." She's like,
How'd
"I
she
knew it."
know?
I don't know. My mom's a
Oh,
crazy,
gosh.
like, intuitive person.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know. I had that ring, and then after a while, like, I just stopped wearing it because I felt weird about it.
Mhm.
But I put it in my jewelry box and had it for a long time. But
Mhm.
okay, let's talk about this. The dads give their daughters purity rings.
Mhm.
So you're like kind of married to your dad, slash married to Jesus, who is also supposed to be almost like a father figure. There's this whole like
Yeah.
subculture within this subculture that is like dating Jesus.
Uh-huh.
Like they go on dates with Jesus. This is gross,
Yeah.
you guys. Like, think about this. You're like your dad's sexual property, basically, until you're someone else's sexual
Yep.
property. I don't want to think that much about who my kid's boning. I just want to make sure that they're doing it safely. I really don't want to obsess about my child's genitals. Like,
Yeah.
that feels really fucked up to me. And to be like sexualizing your own daughter to their dad,
Yep.
this is gross. I remember
It's gross.
it was like 6th grade. I started realizing my dad was a guy. And I was like, I didn't want to talk to him
Mm.
very much because I was like, you're a boy. Ugh. You had sex with my mom. That's why I'm here. I got like really weirded out. And
Mhm.
so then became like a little bit more careful about what I was wearing and stuff. But I didn't feel like my dad was a predator. I think that's the natural thing is you realize sexuality exists,
Mhm.
that your parents have that, and then you start being like, ew. And that's the natural thing, not for your mom to be like, you have boobs now and your dad might want to have sex with you. Like, what are you talking about? You guys, this is so fucked up. Also, this is a creativity podcast. I feel like I always want to like circle back how this affects us. I think like I want to know how you feel this affects your creativity. I mean, it affects everything. It's all connected.
Absolutely.
But I think some of this to me is like I wrapped in around the value of and power of my sexuality because of all this.
Mhm.
I am wanted if someone wants to have sex with me. I thought it was kind of intriguing that boys were so like that the boys had no control over themselves. I thought that was kind of fun. I went like a little slutty with that later on, and still I'm married, but you know what I mean. I think though realizing that power and the weight that it had, I then put a lot of pressure on keeping myself available, sexual, and attractive.
Mhm.
So my value, like I equated like you're telling me how valuable this is. And then when I got divorced, I was like, it's still valuable,
Mhm.
but only if I'm like young and pretty and like no one's going to want to listen to me or know what I like care about what I have to say if I'm not sexy. Like that's
Mm.
my value.
Mhm.
So now it's connected me, I think, to like aging, looking used up, looking gross and weird. I think that it had more to do with how I internalized my body
Mhm.
and like how attractive I am.
Mm.
Because I was super sex positive. It didn't affect me that way. I think it affects my creativity though. I keep telling myself if no one wants to fuck me anymore, then I'm too old to make anything anyone will care about.
Yeah.
So like it might be a
Oh.
far reach, but that's really what I think
Yeah.
that connects to. Because it was like we were sex obsessed
Mhm.
from the time we were 12 years old.
Yeah.
So all I thought about was sex and if I wanted to have sex and how I wanted to have sex and with who and what was going on with that.
Yeah.
So that continued.
Yeah.
And then if I lose the power of that because I'm too old and no one wants me, then like anything I make is not valuable anymore because
Right.
no one values someone who's gross now.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does that make sense what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Like
Mm-hmm.
the line there.
Absolutely.
What about you? What do you think this has done to your creativity?
I think purity culture, just in general, teaches you to distrust the wisdom of your body.
Mm,
There is a natural, deep, precious, intimate wisdom that our bodies are constantly trying to broadcast to us. And the way I grew up intercepted that broadcast and
mm,
distorted it to where I don't trust my own body now. And as a
mm,
result, the body is a big part of who we are. It's our interface with the world. We don't experience the world but through a body.
mm-hmm,
It's where all of our senses come in. And so that's my interface with the world. I distrust my actual connection, my interface with the world. If I distrust that, then I don't feel safe in my
mm,
own body. And people who don't feel safe in their own body, at least me, I can speak for myself, don't create. They're too distracted with staying safe in a world that is constantly telling them that they're unsafe.
mm,
So I've just been distracted being like, I got to make sure that, I'm so hyper vigilant in protecting the interface,
mm,
um, that I like. And then plus I already don't trust myself. I don't trust my body. I don't trust myself. How am I going to trust myself to create? Like, creating is joy. It's from play. Kids that aren't safe don't play.
mm,
So that's my connection with it. And I did just the opposite than you, Emily. Like, I took the messaging of the church and I shut I shut my body down. And I shut down desire, and I'm trying to figure out a way to get that back. And I know, I'm very confident that is something that is seemingly so unrelated as sex has to be connected with how I create.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. If you don't trust your instincts and passion, desire, then creating becomes so much harder
Yeah.
because that is like passion and all those things are so connected to your sexuality and your body and all that stuff that it's like there's got to be some shutdowns in there. I mean, yeah, and I think like you said, there are so many women that were raised in this culture that have that exact experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's very brave and honorable to be like, I see this problem and now I'm going to march through it because that is a lot of pain. I mean, part of me is like I said at the top of this, I think that I am affected so much more than I realize, and I'm only starting to really peel back the layers of it. Um but I think it's really wonderful, even though this sucks. I think it's wonderful that you are in tune with it and can name it. It can be like, okay, because I think a lot of people I would imagine would just be like, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's
Oh,
wrong with me?
I
I
feel
should
that
be.
too. I
But I
definitely
mean,
feel
like
that
just
too.
stuck in that loop,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're like what's wrong with me? Also, this is wrong with me because this happened to me. Like you're making strides to get through that thing. And I hope that our listeners that have been through this hear that there's hope to be working through this,
Absolutely. I mean, to be fair, I feel like the brain part of me that has I feel like my brain knows what's up. And I'm talking out of my brain right now, which is like analytical. I can think through the whole problem. I can like pull myself out of it and dissociate and look at me from a distance and be like, oh, of course. That makes such sense why you feel that way. And then consequently, why you do that or don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's an entirely other conversation, though, to have this knowledge up here, but then to not feel like you can get it down into your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because my body is still very much like, batten down these hatches. Like, come on, close. We're going to shut this party down before it even starts. And I'm trying to be like, hey, you don't need to be so hyper vigilant. Like, you can relax. And it's like, my body doesn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a sense of like, yeah, what is wrong with me? Why is this so easy for all the, like, I'm surrounded by all of these messages in our culture of like women's sexiness and women's da-da-da and women's power and women. And like, yeah, I'm here for it. But like, that's in my brain. How do I translate that to my body? I don't know, which is why I'm in therapy.
But which is excellent. We were saying probably in a past podcast, but you and I have talked and I've been like, why am I so old and figuring this out right now? I'm too old to be figuring this out. And you were like, some people never do that work, Emily. And I'm like, that's what I hear right now. Like, I don't know how to do that. That's why I'm trying to find a way to do this work. Like, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all we can do.
Oh, we still didn't get to
trying.
We still didn't get to like I Kiss Dating Goodbye.
Oh my God.
Can we do a part 2 on this? Do you feel like we can do that?
I'll have talk to my people.
Okay.
And see. Hey Carrie, do you want to do a part 2 on this?
Yeah, I think this is a big enough topic that like it would make sense too. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, Carrie, we've come to a decision. I think we could actually do part 2.
All right, part 2. Yeah. Let's open up them wounds, all that trauma.
Good. My pussy needs this.
Apparently mine does too. But before we leave, dear listener, for those of you who have had some sexual trauma, please, if things are coming up for you, this is a big topic. And if things are coming up for you, just let them come up. And if you need to reach out to a professional, please do that. There is no shame in seeing a qualified therapist and talking through a lot of these deep wounds. My big takeaway that I want you to hear me when I say, please be kind and gentle and patient with yourself as you walk through this journey.
You are not alone.
Not alone. There's so many more of us than you realize.
So many sluts. So many people who shut it down.
Yep.
I'm the slut, in case you were wondering. I mean, that's mine.
Hey, but how cool that we have one of each on this show.
Yay, we planned that.
I know. Like
when we were really young, we'll be like, I'll be the slutty one and you be the one that's shut down.
Yeah. And look,
ready, go.
Woohoo!
Let's process our trauma in different ways.
Excellent. All right, dear listener, we'll see you next week.
Honestly, dear listener.